Warning, this show contains adult language. Welcome to another edition of Up and In It. I'm your host, Adrian Babashoff, and if you're new here, welcome as well. And if you're wondering what the show is about, it's entirely dedicated to improving quality of life for both people and planet through liberation and independence, moving you from surviving to thriving and living life on your own terms. All right, we're back in, and this is part 2 of 285, so I guess we call this episode 286, and this is the ideal homestead /water. And there was so much to talk about. I didn't realize we were going to take up so much time. I mean, we went well over an hour. And I want to pick up where we left off. And where we left off was airlift pumps. And before we go in, I promise I won't make this too long. But the reason why I'm delving into this homestead stuff is I think it's a part of resilient living, sustainability of, what a lot of people want to aspire to. I know myself for the future, that's what I want to do comfortably is, produce a lot of my own food and things like that. And the subject matter, the very first place I would say that you should start off if you were going to homestead or become resilient or sustainable is water. And we talked about that whenever we go searching for new places, planets and things like that. Is there water? That's what sustains life. And I just wanted to talk briefly of why, what we have going on right now. I've talked about this throughout the entire lifetime of this podcast. I never knew that we'd have this COVID thing and supply chain shortages, but I talk a lot of shit about public education, our systems that we have in place right now, and never has there been a time, and it's getting worse. I'm regurgitating to nauseam myself. There's never been a better time that the system's showing itself its true colors of how it doesn't work. I'm actually getting tired of hearing myself say that, but this is getting a lot worse than what I thought. And that's why I look at creating a farm, a homestead, having a place where you have plenty of water, utilizing it correctly to its fullest maximum potential. Because these systems, everything's crumbling around us. I mean, the supply chain thing has got me just so irritated. It's not just, I can't get my ketchup or my sneakers, whatever. It's interfering with business, and it's actually pretty fucking scary. When I think about it, we're all susceptible to the grocery stores, going to the grocery store and buying our food instead of going to our backyard and seeking out eggs and meats and vegetables and nuts and trees and things like that. So we're all sitting ducks in my book. The whole house, that part goes down, we go down with it, and then you can imagine what comes next when there's no food. So that's why I just thought I would just jump in and just say, hey, we need to figure something else out, and we got to start at square one, and that's what we're going to do, a whole series of homestead here, the ideal homestead, according to moi. So yeah, we left off with air pumps, and I don't think I was able to say an air pump basically is the bubbles, as I told you guys, that you basically can get a pipe, like a PVC pipe, a 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1 foot diameter, and you can set an amount of air. Now, it's very important, the diameter of the pipe and the amount of oxygen, the air being pumped into the bottom of this pipe. So you can literally take a drill bit, let's just say, and take yourself a 1/2 inch PVC pipe, or any type of pipe, really. Drill yourself a perfect, say, 1/4 inch hose, enough to where you can wedge a rubber hose that attaches to an air pump to the very, very bottom of this. And then what you can do is you're going to sink this thing down. What's kind of cool, if you guys want to play with it, is you can actually sink it down further and, get yourself, say, maybe 6 foot length of pipe. Drill your hole, as I said, way at the bottom, maybe about 4 inches from the bottom, up. Wedge your hose in there, and then you're going to get your air pump. It could be your air compressor. It could be anything. The best ones are the little pumps the big pumps, which I like when I was doing aquaponics. A little larger pump that's going to pump a lot of air in there. And what you're going to do is you're going to sink that pipe, say, about a foot down until the bubbles start to actually cause gravity where the water will start percolating out the top of the pipe. The further you go down and the more centrifugal force of the water and the bubbles, there's the more water for the bubbles to travel, the more gravity, the more pressure it creates, the more water shoots out the top. Now, it's not like a fire hose. It's more of like a burping sensation where it'll go like burp, 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 right? There's silencers and things you can put on there. It's not Danny Rojas. I can't remember the fellow's name, but if you guys Google water air pumps and airlift pumps, you'll see a number of guys. I think it was Danny Rodriguez or something like that. He's in Big Island, Hawaii, I think it was, and he did a lot of work on it. But yeah, there's plenty of people doing stuff with airlift pumps, and they're the thing that I didn't get to say too is because you're using just an air pump, like for an aquarium, or even a larger one that's say about a foot by a foot, cube. You can actually run these off solar. It's not like a big giant air compressor where it's going to drag out the energy. But the beautiful part is that these things just keep burping and burping water, and I've seen people take water and elevate it to a height from a stream of, I seen it on TV, on YouTube. They were able to elevate water all the way up like 25 feet up. So why would you care about this? What is the significance about this? We were talking about contours and land, and let's just say you have a lake or a little swale or any body of water that's lower to the point where you actually need it. Now, if you have cisterns of water, and you want to get that you want to fill them up, what you could do is use this airlift pump that's going to elevate that water up, say about 25 feet. Probably slow. The higher you go, the slower the rate of the pressure. But it's able to elevate that night and day while you're sleeping, and it's able to trickle that water down and into a vat of your cistern or wherever you want to pump that water. Maybe you want to pump it into a swale. So I think pretty significant. Another thing that I failed to tell you guys on capturing water in cisterns and things is that, let's just say, it's very kind of hard to explain, but let's imagine you have a U-shaped pipe, right? You have rain coming off your roof. And we talked about running a pipe straight, as vertical as possible to your cisterns. But you literally, if you didn't want that obstruction, you would take that pipe and you would connect it to your gutter. You'd have one spout where all your water runs down, right? And let's just say that this U is, the average roof height is about 7 feet. Let's just say you had 7 feet high on both ends. Well, what you're going to do is you're going to take the first U, that drains everything off your roof into that hole. And then that first inlet's going to fill up, and then it's going to go down to the bottom portion of the U. And this U could be, 100 feet long. It's going to fill up that pipe, and it's going to cause gravity. Now, if your cisterns are sitting on a hillside or level with your home, either or, you can raise that up to say about 6 feet, 4 feet. The other side of the U, if I'm articulating this correctly, you're going to cut that pipe off and you're going to send a elbow into your cistern, say about 5, 6, 7 feet. Probably you can't go even. It has to be just below level, right? So if you have 7 feet from the roof catchment and you have 7 feet over to where your water cistern, your tanks are, it's very highly unlikely you're going to catch most of the water. What you want to do is drop it down at least a few inches. So what's happening is that pipe's filling up on one end. The water driving the gravity in is actually going to go straight down. Then it's going to go level underneath the ground so you don't have any obstructions. It's actually going to lift up the other side of the U, right? That's, let's say, 6 foot. What do we say? We cut off about 6 inches, so you got about 6'6" from 7 feet. It's going to fill that up, and then it's literally going to pour inside of your cistern. I know that it doesn't seem like it would work, but it would. We use this in aquaponics and stuff like that when I was building the systems. Anyways, so yeah, our next one is round pumps. Now, a round pump is basically a very genius thing. And I kind of want to talk, there's two things I want to talk about. Remembering life with a windmill. I grew up in a third world country working on a farm, and we had a windmill, right? We didn't have a round pump, which I want to talk about. But the thing I want, before I dive into this, is I just want you guys to think that I'm even guilty of this too, as we look at the old ways and go, what a bunch of fucking monkeys, man. What a bunch of fucking monkeys, and we were killing stuff. Everything was in black and white. We were hunting animals with sharpened fucking pencils. I don't know. I'm just making shit up. But when you think about things such as the round pump and the windmill, this is genius. And when you think about the systems, I got a bus going to be passing by us here. It's going to rumble some noise. I'm on the side of the road by my farm, by the way. That wasn't too bad. But when you think about those old ways and you think about the times we have now, look at how the market disruptions, the fucking supply chain disruptions, the electricity goes out, the water goes out, all of it. You know what? When you got a round pump, nobody gives a fuck about what's going on. That round pump keeps going with or without you. You could die as long as that thing's, it doesn't rust out and completely stop. So what is a round pump? A round pump is basically The old ways is the force, the centrifugal force, the gravity of a stream coming down would actually utilize a pump, right? And what it does, they have some through pressure and things like that. There's all kinds of many different ways we have now, but basically like a windmill, the water, or like a watermill, the water is creating a piston to move up and down, which does what? Creates a pump, which actually pumps itself. Very awesome lesson that we can learn here in life, business, spirituality, money, everything is utilizing something to pump itself. So that water is coming down regardless. And the weight of it is actually causing the pressure, the combustion, if you will, to actually pump that water up to wherever you need it. So really awesome stuff, a ram pump. Now, getting to the windmill, when I lived in South America, Uruguay, as a little kid, I was, funny little story here, I was ordained to go up and clean the water tank because we use gravity, right? Just as we just spoke about with the ram pump. The windmill, when the wind would blow, there was a pump attached to that on a gear, would go down to our well, and it would pump the water, and then on a float valve would stop the pump from working, disengage it from the gears, and it would fill up the water. And this was a water tank that was elevated probably about 25, 30 feet up in the air. You know, it had a little ladder to go up it, and there was lots of algae and stuff in there. Hot summer. Get up there, son, and clean that thing out. Oh, I'll get up there and swim. I went bathing, basically. I wasn't washing up, but I went swimming in our fucking drinking water. Sure, my parents wouldn't be happy. Sorry, Mom. You know, Dad, who gives a fuck? You know, he doesn't, I don't think he'd care. But Mom, she'd be really upset. But yeah, I went up there and cleaned the algae while I swam. And yeah, it was pretty neat though. The sound of it, it's like a clock. And remembering there was gears, and my mom was telling me about how you can, the versatility of a windmill. See, a lot of people look and they say, oh, well, it's a windmill, it pumps water. No, this thing could be modified to grind grain, to cut wood, to power electricity, it's got multiple functions if you think about it. If you had a gear ratio, you know, where you can engage and disengage different machinery, you know, like say like an alternator from a car. For those of you who don't know, when your car is running, it spins an alternator. The alternator actually generates electricity through a copper coil that will charge your batteries. Sometimes if your batteries aren't charging, it's because your alternator's bad. Well, you can take one of these alternators out, and it's spun by a serpentine belt, right? A belt that basically hooks up to the gear, you know, to a wheel and spins it to cause the friction that causes electricity. You could just easily take that and you can hook that up to a windmill, and you can power batteries for wind power. So the old ways I look at is a lot of these things, the herbal medicines, not to stray too far out from water, but I thought I would just share this with you guys, is all the old ways, like the herbal remedies for colds, flus, and cuts and burns and headaches, and I mean millions of things, vitamins and minerals, which the earth, you know, provides way better, fresh, clean, organic instead of synthetic. A lot of these old ways are dead, and due to Rockefeller and the people coming in and just taking over the whole the medical society, but we don't want to go in that today. But yeah, there's multiple ways that we can utilize these engines, and the old ways, I think, are really starting to shine through, where, you know, you grow your own food, you're pumping your own water through a windmill, you're using a ram pump, airlift pumps, you got to use electricity, you know, but a lot of these components, if we're able to marry the old ways and slide this into technology, you know, let the two fuck and have a baby, make a hybrid. And that's what I consider the rest of, like, my life has been, being exposed to that, being lucky enough to be exposed to things like that and not disregard them. When you start to think and you know of these things, and you start to look at how perpetually they just keep going, you know, producing for you, the old ways are definitely something to take in consideration. Now let's move forward to the next one, which is one of my favorites, Mr. Zepp Holzer. He's in Austria. And my favorite part about Zepp Holzer is he has a beer holster on every fucking planter box, from what I heard. And it was actually in this podcast, which I need to give credit to Paul Wheaton of Permies.com. If you want to hear more about Zepp Holzer Spring Terrace, a man-made spring This fucker is producing more water per minute than Paul Wheaton has on his permaculture homestead from his pumping from his well, right? I forgot how many gallons per minute, but it's ridiculous, and it's year round. And as of lots of other things, I'd like to say is people told him, again, you're fucking nuts, Zepp. We should lock you up in an institution. It can't be fucking done. Nuh-uh, no way, no how. You're fucking nuts. How many of us have been told that it's not going to work? Well, Zepp Holzer doesn't give a fuck about those people. He created a place where it was dry and where there was hardly any rain. And he created a man-made terrace, spring terrace. So what he basically did is he did swales. We were talking about in the last episode there of, 285. And we were talking about swales and things like that. And I failed to actually, now that I'm talking about Zepp Holzer, we didn't talk about terracing. Terracing is just basically, you guys have seen like a road, right? When you're driving up the mountain and you see like they carve out like a flat area. That's kind of terracing, but that's not terracing on contour. You can imagine if you had a hillside or a mountainside and you carved in terraces, like little roads, but they were almost perfectly level with actually a little bit of an incline to to stop the water from sheeting completely off. Well, this is what Zepp Holzer is one of his favorite things to do. And you can also terrace your property too, depending on where you're at. All these applications of permaculture, terracing, swales, berms, and all that have their applications for different lands, different soil types, different pitches, different environments, right? If it's hot, if it's cold, some you want to bury stuff in the ground, some stuff you want to raise out of the ground. If it's too wet, you definitely want to raise them out of the ground. But yeah, Zepp Holzer, what he did is he made a bunch of terraces. He planted trees. The trees absorb water and things like that. And what's happening is that the little bit of rain that does happen on this land, on this hill, this mountainside, as the water pours down, it goes into the ground. We talked about this. What does water do? It takes the path of least resistance. And I'm not sure if I mentioned in there, but you guys got to imagine when you say dump a bucket of water down a sidewalk, you watch it just go whoosh. It just runs really fast. I want you to imagine pouring water in sand. I'll bet you've done that. You notice how quickly it just goes down, but it's still obstructed. Now I want you to take a regular old your backyard garden soil and fill up half of a bucket, drain, put a bunch of holes in it, dump water in there and see how fast it goes through. It holds, it stops, it seeps in. Now imagine what happens to that water. Water disappears through evaporation, but when it goes down in the soil, in the dark dreams of the earth, inside the hooves, inside the secret womb of the world, it gets protected. And then that water moves very, very slowly, depending on the structure of the soil. If there's lots of clay and stuff like that, that moisture is not evaporating. The moisture never really goes anywhere. The trees and plants may suck up through their roots a certain amount, but a lot of that water is just going to slowly move. You can imagine it moving like an inch per fucking, hour, if that. And it's completely ludicrous to actually give you a mathematical movement of water, of how fast it moves, because there's so many depths of the soil. There's so many different types. There's pockets, even in your backyard, you may have like 5 different types of soil mixtures. There'll be some sand where it'll just flow right through, and also it'll hit clay and it'll slow down, then it'll hit some silt, right? So, but you can imagine that water seeps very slowly. And Zepp Holzer, one of the permaculture, natural farming, engineering with nature, is one of the all-time, if he's still alive, I haven't checked him out in a long fucking time, been like 2 years, I think. Doesn't speak English, by the way, but has plenty of awesome books. Zepp Holzer, Z-E-P-P, Holzer, H-O-L-Z-E-R. So when he built these terraces, he has them all angled down, I believe, towards a concentrated area, just slightly, just very, very slightly. So as these terraces hold the water that falls in, it saturates into the soil, it all starts to move towards where? Towards this little valley area. And what Zepp Holzer did is he took a large plastic pipe filled with polished glass, polished stones, and he filled that up. He used clay, and I can't remember, reeds and things like that as a filtration system. And what happens is, I think they drilled a shit ton of holes in this thing too. So what's happening is that this water is being diverted into this pipe, and it goes way down to Zepp's his shire, I guess you'd call it out there, to his house. And that water continually gets trickling out all year round from what my understanding has been. And it's in a dry area of Austria, which I didn't even know they had dry areas there. I thought it was all, snow-packed and wet. And, it goes to show how much I fucking know. But yeah, man-made spring terrace. Zepp Holzer spring terrace. You guys got to check that out. All right, so utilizing street runoff is where I'm sitting right now. And I want to say yes. I know that people are going to say the street is dirty and all that. But as we talk about the water running through the soil, for those of you who know about water filtration, if you're ever in the wilderness and you're thirsty as fuck and you feel like you're dying and you're just like, I got to get that water or I'm going to die. It's life and death. What you could do is you could actually dig a hole next to a stream. If it's sandy, it's really nice. But the smaller the microns, the smaller the soil, the better. And what's going to happen is it filtrates, right? How do we filter water? A lot of us use charcoal filters, very fine. We want, basically you can imagine like sand and aggregate. And as the water comes in, the water has to pass through, and all of these little bumps, the finer the aggregate, finer the particles, the harder it is for bacteria. If the particles are smaller than bacteria, the bacteria stick to the particles as the water keeps flowing through. So you can literally dig yourself a hole next to a stream or a lake, and you can literally have filtered water that you can drink, most likely safe. Chemicals and things like that are they're soluble. They're some of them are just as fine as water, and you're taking your chance. But life-death situation, it's going to stop a lot of those toxins and things like that. So when we think about street runoff and toxins, if it's running off a road onto your property, and you built yourself a swale in that area, there's a good chance that a lot of that is going to be filtered out. Now we start talking about jet fuel flying over the air. How bad is it? Like how particular is that? Like, is that a reality? My dad used to live in Newport Beach, California, and he had a boat. He had this little catamaran, this little inflatable boat, and the top of his boat had a canvas, and the jets flying over. Just the fuel I never knew, and it's so sad because it's a gully, a big reservoir of water there, a bay, and when you stuck your hand on the boat, you can literally, your hand would stick. It's like somebody sprayed glue all over it. That's from the jet fuel. So when we start thinking about toxins and things like that, I know I did, and I still do, and it would be my last resort, but I would still use it for things, say like firewood, and I'd actually use it for like an orchard, I would say. If I can run that water through a series of swales, let it soak into the ground, and by the time it gets to my trees and my trees soaking it up, I think that they would be just fine. But utilizing runoff from water, if you live in a place like Sunnyside, California, like I do, there's not a lot of options. There's not a lot of water here. But the first thing we need to take in observation, whether it's a gravel road, a properly built gravel road, or an asphalt, any kind of paved road, there's a crown to it. There's a slight rounded area, right? They want the water to flow either to the left or to the right. And that's why we have gutter systems. If they were perfectly level, we'd have ponding water and things like that, causing people to hydroplane and crash and die. So there's a crown to the street. So you're going to get, if you're in a neighborhood, you're going to get half of the water that's hanging down. And I think I spoke about that in my house in Fallbrook. My 5 acres it was a U shape. It was a slight U on one side and a big hill. Well, all that water, since I was at the bottom in the pit, came from both angles and siphoned into my house. So if you're picking a homestead, I think take in consideration, especially if there's gravel roads and things like that, way cleaner water. Consider getting yourself next to, a hill, anything with contour. We were talking about why contour is so important, in the last episode. And because that water is going to flow down, you want to capture as much of it as possible. Even if you're in a place that has like South Carolina where you get 40 to 80 inches of rain, you want to collect as much water as possible. You can put that in the lake. You can do so many things with it. It's never like you could have too much fucking water. I guess unless you live in like Kauai or something, But even then, I think you can utilize it, snake it through your property, store it up for any dry seasons, and it's the best drinking stuff on the planet as far as rainwater if it's not coming from the road. All right, so roof rain catchment I have on here. We talked about roofs and we talked about the streets and things. Roofing, I think I would like to say, I see a lot of people with asphalt roof shingles, metal roofs, and things like that. And I think I said it, but I want to say it again just to make sure people understand. Roofing materials are toxic. There's no way you can take metal and make it last 50, 60 years without putting some sort of toxin on it. There's no way you can get asphalt shingles last 20, 30 fucking years. And just the fact that they're made out of petroleum and you're collecting that water. Remember we talked about microns and filtration, right? How much do you think you can get out of the chemicals, the fiberglass and the asphalt and the oils and shit like that out of that? Without getting a certain amount of toxins. So I do like it. I would recommend that you get a silicone roof. And silicone doesn't degrade. That's why they use it for body parts, for implants, like breast. And I didn't even know that people put ass fucking lifts. How would that feel? You know what I mean? A silicone balloon in your ass. When you sit down, you can't feel your ass. But your ass looks like J-Lo's, I guess, or something. I don't know. You got some nice, big, fat, fucking rounded ass. Maybe that's why see, it's... Excuse me. Maybe that's why those chicks twerking. It's like they got a fucking water balloon in their ass, and it's just shaking all fucking over the place. But yeah, get yourself a silicone roof, and the water runoff is really, really clean. That's like your best bet. Acrylics and things like that, which a lot of things are happening now on roofs. They're white reflective. They're all supposedly, Title 24, where they're energy saving. They reflect most of the heat. You can literally walk barefoot on top of these things in 100-degree weather, right? And your feet won't get burned. But silicone is the only thing that doesn't sheet off. You have thermoplastics, which some people are building aquaponic systems with, and they're made out of petroleum, and they're not food grade. I definitely would tell you that. So I don't know what the fuck you got. That's why I kind of walked away from aquaponics. I was like, you know what? This is getting a little crazy. But yeah, as far as toxicity, if you want it to be natural, pure, and good for the earth too, all that water running off, you want to use silicone coatings. It's going to protect your roof. It's going to preserve it. It's going to reflect the sun rays, all the heat, keep your home cooler, and it's going to wash the byproduct of the wash off of rain is going to be the cleanest thing that you can get as of to date. And if it helps, there are some silicone coatings. It's called NSF. N as in Nancy, S as in Sam, F as in fuck off with your poison pollutants. NSF is National Sanitation Federation, I believe. And basically, if anything has NSF approval, and I would do diligence because PVC pipes have NSF and they emit chlorine. So I would take that with a grain of salt. But as long as it has NSF approval, your water's clean. All right. Structured water. Okay, we're going to start getting a little weird here now. Weird. All right, I had to wet my whistle there. Structured water is very interesting. Yosef, somebody, I can't remember his fucking name, but if you just put in structured water, what you're going to find, Bill Mollison knew about this too, the king of permaculture, who's no longer with us, is they got these things like these little shell things, right, when water's running. It's basically, if you can imagine, like a figure eight. So let's just imagine your water's running off your silicone roof. It hits this first pot and it goes into a swirl. And as it swirls once, it jumps into the next one, which swirls the opposite direction. What's happening is that this water is oxygenating itself. You can imagine waterfalls, and if you've ever sat by a stream and you see the water moving in circular patterns, and it's wisping like silk over rocks, coming down and causing bubbles when it flows down and hits something, and then you have the obstructions, but it winds and curves. And what this man found, and I know before you hang the phone up, check it out. There's science behind this. There's businesses actually using structured water. It's cleaner. It's better to wash their machines and things like that, which, when they need to cool off motors and wash motors out, when they have to use certain water, structured water has been proven to work better than just regular old water. And it's because it's energized and it's oxygenized. There's a lot of studies that water has memory. I think we're going to talk about that, your personal connections at the end here. But it's a pretty crazy fucking thing. They actually have these adapters, and I am saving up. It's about $80, I think, or $100. It hooks up to a hose, and it looks like these golf balls with divots in it. So as the water flows through your faucet, it goes over these series of golf balls and literally does that silky, weird pattern where it oxygenates itself, and it's supposed to like recharge, like it's alive. It's live water instead of dead water. Now the difference is that your shit water, that comes from your city, even if it was coming from a lake, but I love to talk shit about our systems right now because fuck them, fuck the government. No. As that water comes through, it doesn't flow to you naturally the way it would in a stream. It's very fascinating how the cats at my house, like the neighborhood cats, we feed them so they come and hang out with us. We bribe them, tie a stake around their fucking neck so they'll actually let me pet them. But yeah, what I notice is my aquaponics system, the water flowing through, it's moving. They prefer that instead of the fresh, clear tap water that's in a jar. I've got an automatic water feeder for them. So they kind of know. Animals know. Us, we're losing our intuition and we're kind of becoming dummies. But yeah, that water will flow as it comes to you, and it goes through a series of pipes. So it hits like, a T, and it just gets, boom, it gets hit. So it splits off, right? And then it hits another elbow and another elbow. And you can imagine how many elbows and basically like knee-jerk reactions you can imagine. This is what is said. I kind of buy into it. So by the time it gets to you, it's just like beaten up and it's dead water. It has no oxygen really in it. It's been forced, and it's got chlorine, which we'll talk about, chloramine, and it's been treated and everything. And by the time it gets to you, it's lost its luster. It's lost its energy. So, structured water basically helps. You can put this in a lake. I heard there's all kinds of, just look it up, structured water. And it livens the water back up. And if water has memory, if you're able to talk shit, I don't know if you guys seen Dr. Kyoto, I think his name is, from Japan. They would take that water and they would play heavy metal music or just say, fuck you, I hate you, you're going to die, and just yell at the water, and then they'd flash freeze it, and they'd look at the ice crystals, and they'd be these warped little ugly looking crystals. And then they would sing like classical Beethoven music, or take holy water that was blessed, and it had these crazy fucking same temperature, same area. They just did these experiments. You could look that up too. The water reacted. So I'm going to save that for, let's move forward. I'll save that for the end as our reaction. So take that, remember that, because we're going to come back to it. Anyway, moving forward now, we talked about chloramine and treatment water. We know how that we can use some structurized water components, and I'm not affiliated with anybody. I actually pay to be here. I have no sponsors, no nothing. But you can take chewable vitamin C, and it takes about 500 to 1,000 milligrams. I don't think it's that important, to about a 55-gallon drum of water. Fill it up with water, and the reason you want to throw this chewable vitamin C in there is it'll actually help evaporate the chloramine. Now, for my fish and my plants, I don't like chlorine. I especially don't like chloramine. What is chloramine? Chloramine is something that doesn't really evaporate. So you can imagine using chlorine as we did in the past. It'd go through those pipes, and by the time it got to you and everything, maybe to vats, open vats, any open area that had oxygen, it's going to evaporate. Whereas chloramine, a good new invention, doesn't evaporate. So it's more cost effective, and they like it. But we're drinking that shit, and who knows what the fuck that does to you. I mean, literally, I can fill up my gravity-fed water filtration system, my drinking water, and I get a water hose, and I fill it up, and you put a lid. It's about 3 gallons. But when I'm filling it up and I stick my face over it, you can literally smell the chlorine coming out. It's fucking disgusting, right? So, yeah, if you're in that system and you wanted to use city water, excuse me, you want to go and use the vitamin C. It's the only thing that I'm aware of that will evaporate the chlorine. Do some testings on it after, say about a day to 2 days. Ultimately, what I would like to do is get an air pump, like an air stone. And if you had a vat of water, put the air stone at the bottom in conjunction with the vitamin C, let it bubble up, and that'll help gas off anything and actually oxygenate the water as well, make it more live. For some reason, to me, my own personal opinion, is water likes oxygen. It likes bubbles. I like bubbles. I love water. I love bubbles in cold water. I love bubbles with fucking alcohol and with, like beer. I love fucking beer. Thought I would just get that out. All right, moving forward, recycling gray water. Now, that's what they're doing. They're recycling black water, which is your shit water and your piss and everything else. But you could you can literally stay. Sorry, I am coughing all over the place today. You can literally save your shower, your dish water, where you wash any sink water. This is considered gray water for those of you who don't know. And you can literally take this water and you can run it inside of ponds. How would I do gray water? Well, first of all, I've seen it's pretty cool. I've seen people get their shower, their bathtub, and they'll actually run a pipe. They'll disconnect it from the regular plumbing that goes to the sewer or the septic. And let's basically run a 2-inch pipe from the shower all the way over to, say, a banana circle. Now, if someone's jerking one off in the fucking shower, I don't want to eat no fucking banana that has a fucking face on it. So I'm kind of like, I don't know about that one, right? Same thing to me when you are washing your hands after you take a dump, or you're washing greasy vegetables or, greasy pots and pans or just, I don't know, things with milk, it's, to me, it's still not sanitary. So I would not recommend, and this is just my opinion, you guys, there's people doing it, I don't know if their fucking bananas have face or if they're fucking their bananas some weird, fucking, some weird fucking country hillbilly stuff over there. But yeah, if you're, just kidding too, I don't want no hillbilly show up my fucking house with a shotgun and fucking, blow my kneecaps out. But if you're running your gray water, there's certain ways to do it. There's a grease trap. That's what I would do. My ideal homestead would be to connect the showers, the sinks, and everything. Any kind of runoff water that doesn't have to do with black water or urine. I'd run over and I'd have a vat to where it had a grease trap. How would I design this grease trap? I guess I would have a filtration, a netting to catch actually debris like food, yucky foods and stuff like that, and meats and fats, whatever you're washing down. I prefer actually to wipe everything down for right now with paper towels. Like if I have something greasy, I spray Simple Green, wipe everything all down, get as much of the grease out as possible, set it aside, and then wash my dishes. But yeah, I'd have something that floats where the grease will, because grease floats, it sits on the top, and you'd have to come over and manually skim it off the top, and then that would in turn allow the water on the bottom to slowly seep down and actually go through another series of pipes, which would land to a gravel bed. Now this is where I would line it with, say, something like a pond liner or something like that. Fill it up with about 18 inches of gravel, and what we'd have is a series of these before they would actually get to a pond, or ponds. What we'd do is we'd plant such things as reeds. You see, when that water comes in, it does have a certain amount of nutrients, and it does have some certain amounts of bacteria and stuff like that. Certain plants like reeds will thrive on those. They'll literally suck up any toxins or anything like that and utilize whatever nutrients are in that water from your vegetables and things like that. But it'll literally clean the water. Now, when these reeds need to be harvested, literally like an aquaponic system, you can put the seeds just in the gravel and they'll grow by themselves. Right? You don't have to do anything. They get plenty of water, plenty of nutrients, right? They want you to keep washing yourself as long as you're not jerking off in the fucking kitchen sink, right? So you can harvest these things, chop them all up, use them as mulch around anything that's not edible, like say, eucalyptus trees that you're growing for wood, and you can use that for mulch around them, and so that everything's recyclable. But I have seen where they have this series of what I just talked about. The water actually goes into another pond, and it goes into another pond, all the way with using gravity. At the end, they have like a canary in a coal mine. For those of you who don't know, they used to carry a canary because its lungs are so small. And if the canary died, that meant that there was no oxygen. They'd turn around and they'd leave, right? The canary was would show them what was going on. I can't even imagine how many fucking canaries had to die so we could stay warm. But anyways, you can take goldfish and we could do the same to them. We could torture them. No, you can get fish and you can put them at the last end of the water filtration system, and they will let you know how good the water is as well. I've seen it. Now, will I actually do it? I'm not sure. I think I'd rather get some instruments of testing that I could do. Maybe parts per million. They have water testings and things like that, and kind of I wanted to go that route. I think I wouldn't even worry about drinking the water really from the sink. I would do that filtration system to the best of my knowledge, and then I would send that over towards, say, the banana circle, where you'd have your banana trees and things like that. So yeah, you can definitely recycle water, gray water. Cloud nets. I am sitting, for those of you watching, I don't know, let's turn this over, kind of break this up. You guys see in the background right there, for those of you watching the show, all of the fog? Well, there's certain places in the world, like in Chile, I believe, where they have cloud nets. And basically all this fog, you guys can't see, but the street's completely wet around me. And the trees are just dripping with water. Trees are a natural cloud net. It's exactly the way it sounds. It's a net that fucking captures clouds. I have not been the same since COVID, man. This is my throat. Well, what these guys do is it looks like shade cloth, like shade tarps. You know, if you guys ever seen those, they're woven. They let out a certain amount of light, but keep you cooler. Well, these things are designed in a certain way to let air pass through, but it actually collects the condensation of the water that's in the air. It's for free. There's no electricity, no nothing. So you can imagine a big giant sail of a tarp that's up on these hills, and I forgot, they provide drinking water and cooking and all that to a complete whole entire town by doing this. I forgot what the numbers are, but it's a couple thousand gallons a year. Now, what's on the bottom is, say, a gutter system. I'll make it really simple. So as the water falls through gravity, as these things are perfectly level, as the clouds pass through, the water sticks. What water sticks to itself? If you ever watched, like on your windshield, little water droplets, one will hit the other one, I'll say, boom, they'll fall down. Water has like magnetics to it. It's like magnetized. It's fucking fascinating. Water is a fucking trip. We know way more about, I think, outer space and shit than we even do water. Like, it can't be compressed. There's heavy water. There's water underneath fucking water, people. I saw a show where a guy went down in this little submarine thing, and they're like, we're experiencing heavy water. It was literally liquid. We're going to go through it now. Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck? But anyways, getting back to above ground, normal shit here-ish. Is that, that water will fall down. It'll collect in the gutter. The gutter is on contour. Remember, contour is very important. That water will slowly go down that gutter. And where could it go? And remember, we were talking about that U pipe? It can go into there and fill up cisterns. So the beauty of cloud nets, they actually have some, it looks like a vase or a vase, depending on which fucking part of the English language you're talking about. I know people like to fuck around and do different shit. But, it looks like a vase, and it's got like, when the wind blows, it actually causes this vortex to go in, and whatever water's in the air, damn, sorry about the coughing, it'll actually collect. And cloud nets, pretty fucking badass. Now, I completely forgot to mention this one, but I guess it's not for farmstead. It's kind of survival, but hey, for fun, let's throw one in. It's called a solar water distiller. And basically what you would do is you take yourself a sheet of plastic, let's say about 8 foot square. What you're going to do is you're going to rough up the bottom. It's not really necessary, but it does help. Rough up the bottom of this thing, just kind of scratch it up a little bit so there's little hairs hanging down. It gives some of the water something to cling to. What you're going to do is you're going to dig yourself a hole, say about 2 feet, let's say 4 by 4 feet wide by about 2 feet deep, right? You could do this in the middle of the fucking desert of Death Valley here in Sunnyside, California. And what you're going to do is you're going to dig that all out. You're going to place yourself a vessel in the center of this pit. And you're going to lay your plastic with the fuzzy side down. And you're going to drop a rock down the center. You're going to make sure that that conical, the bottom of the cone, goes right over your water vessel. You can take a surgical straw or a hose or whatever and slide it in there into the cup. And literally when the sun comes out, it will heat up this thing like a pot, right? And what it's going to do is it's going to, what we talk about evaporation, it's going to get so hot in this hole because you exposed it, it's going to literally suck all that water up through evaporation, through heat. Heat rises. It's going to take the heat's going to raise the water molecules up and water, not molecules. I'm trying to sound all fucking smart over here. The water's going to hit that plastic and it's going to cake on there. It's going to drip down till it goes to the conical area at the bottom, the cone, the point, and it's going to drip where? Into your vessel. So if you were ever in a survival situation, you could find yourself a tarp, a digging apparatus anywhere in the world. You could basically collect pure water that you could drink. Now, I think it would taste like plastic, but hey, it'll get you by. And I learned this from a guy named Tom Brown Jr., who's written some survival books, and he was able to get a gallon a day a gallon a day in the middle of the desert. So thought I would share that one. All right, next, polyurethane water hoses and why I use them. Water hoses are fucking disgusting. I grew up Gen X, I think I am. I don't even know what the fuck I am. I'm mid-40s, so I guess I'm Generation X. I don't fucking know. Gen X, I think. Anyways, back in the 70s, the 80s, you know, when I was a kid, we drank from the water hose. We'd be playing outside, and I remember when it was hot, just hitting that shit and just like, oh, you gotta let it run for a minute. It's toxic. It is super, super fucking toxic rubber hoses. And I see people spraying off their garden and their baby plants and shit like that with it. Polyurethane is just like silicone we were talking about. I think it's polyurethane. Polyurea, I think it was what it was. But it's lined inside, yeah, polyurea. Polyurethane as well. I can't remember. I think it's polyurea, yeah. It's very strong, and it has NSF approval. And you want to find yourself an NSF approval, National Sanitation Federation, whatever the fuck it is. You know, NSF water, food grade hoses before you start watering edible plants and things like that. And definitely if you're going to drink the water, right? There's a reason why in RVs they have an awesome fucking like white or blue hose that's food grade. What's awesome is they have fucking plastic pipes that you can literally taste the chemicals in them. As the water comes from a toxic fucking PVC pipe or lead, who fucking knows, through the faucet, it at least goes 10 feet into a food grade hose, into non-food grade fucking plumbing that's inside your fucking mobile home or your tiny house, right? I mean, it tastes gross, guys. I was brushing my teeth the other day in summer, about a month and a half ago, and it was like 100 degrees outside, and literally you could just, you could taste the plastic in there. Now I turn my water on and I just let it run for now. But yeah, you guys want to check out stuff. I bought one. I can't remember the name of the company, but you literally, what you could do is go to Home Depot, open up, separate the hoses, and just stick your nose right inside the hose and just take a good whiff. Just, and see what it smells like. It's fucking gross. Just smell the fucking outside of the hose. You can smell it. Just walk by it in a summer day in the hose section. You can smell it. These polyurethane hoses, you can't smell shit. A brand new, out of the box, smell it. Nothing, right? So consider using those instead of those toxic fucking hoses. You know, it'd be pretty neat if this show ever took off someplace. I can get sponsors so we could actually show you guys. I could take the time and put links and stuff and maybe get you guys discounts. Hint, hint, hint. Okay, so that's all I got. The final words on personal connection with water. And I told you it was going to get weird. Now it just got fucking weirder. So those of you who don't give a shit about spirituality, I'm not going to be all la la land. As you guys can tell, I'm not a fucking fairy. Well, fucking sort of. I'm a male fucking fairy. Jesus. Basically, we have water holds memory and things like that. And I think what we have a huge connection. My special needs daughter has really shown me these type of things. When she gets in the water, she moves her hands like a duck, kind of like wings, like just her fingers. She just likes looking at the water, and I think that the water has something for her. That's why I call her my little water buffalo. In many religions in India, water is actually worshipped. Water is put with a flower on top inside of this copper vessel, and it's prayed over. And when we look at water through a microscope, as I said, we can literally see how memory is held in that water. We can literally see how it helps plants. That's what I want to do is get structured water on half my farm and my garden, and on the other half just use regular old water. But it's just our thoughts and our moods, and water's in everything. The water consists of what? 2/3 of the planet. 70% of the earth is covered with water. 70% of our bodies are water, which is very interesting, quinkadink. And for those of you who don't know, in coatings, as I said, with silicones and acrylics and things like that, paint, there's water in wood. There's water in metal. There's water in concrete. There's water in every fucking thing, right? That's why when you're applying coatings, things need to be completely dry. There has to be absent of water, because that water is going to do what when it heats up? It's going to start evaporating. If it starts evaporating, it's going to evaporate till it gets to where a coating's at, and then it's going to blister off the coatings. It has nowhere else to go, right? So you have to be very careful. So water is all around us, and the water holds memory. There's no getting away from water, memory, and these energies. You know, when you look at particles in the air, such as I am right now, I'm completely surrounded by fog. And there's water in space. There's a lot of, the whole flooding of the earth, Noah's Ark and all that kind of shit. Scientists are saying there's these huge rain clouds that's the color reflecting off the sun. Pretty fucking cool shit. Do I buy into it? I don't fucking know. But it makes sense. So there's this giant clouds, and our earth is actually not sitting in one spot in space. It's actually floating through space, it is said. Now, at some point, we must have intercepted a rain cloud of water, a fog in the outer space, and that's what hit our planet and completely changed everything. Maybe that's the way the planet was created, right? It was just floating through outer space, and one day water hit it, and then that caused oxygen and things, and who fucking knows? That amount of water tilted off. Imagine if Mars got bombarded with just fucking several trillion gallons of water, right? Maybe it would change the planet's structurization. But if water holds memory, and we're able to rot rice and make weird crystals by yelling at water and rice and things like that, and scientifically proven, and it's holy water, which actually heals people and can be looked under a microscope and can be altered. I think that's probably the big thing, is within, I think they said 10 or 15 minutes after you take a sample of water and look at it through a microscope, pray over it, bless it, within 10 minutes it's transformed. Sorry, I'm just sneeze. God, I'm like the most perfect podcaster today, aren't I? Making all kinds of body fucking noises. But yeah, water is very emotional, very spiritual, I think, and something that we have neglected. Drinking water, I think, if we're able to hold memory, if we're able to manipulate water, who's to say that we couldn't turn water into medicine, right? If we blessed water. So basically, as it's scientifically said, that verbal abuse is far more worse than physical abuse. I can fucking punch you in the fucking face, and you'd be like, that fucking hurt. You probably have to go to the hospital, and get fixed up and everything, stitches and everything. But if I just constantly sat there and just said, fuck you, you're a loser, you're a piece of shit, here's fucking why, and I just started going negative and negative and negative on you, it'll actually cause, scientifically proven, damage on the organs, damage on the mind. Look at the reverse effects when you fall in love or you find something that brings you joy. Did anybody give you something? Did they chemically, biologically alter your body? No, nothing happened. It was a flip of your attention, and the water in your body, I believe, the electricity, which water conducts electricity too, we forgot to mention, but the energy that water conducts. And I look at this in the medicine of water. If we're verbally able to change things around from good to bad, who's to say that we couldn't bless water and change it into something that actually heals us? Now, the Ganges River is a very interesting thing. There's dead animals and shit floating in. There's fucking tons of bacteria. I mean, human fecal matter, I think. Yet hundreds of thousands of people bathe in it, and they actually get healed, and they don't get sick. A lot of people say that they've accustomed, their bodies got used to the bacteria, but I'm like, fecal matter's fecal matter. Dead fucking things, dead matter. The water, from what I've come to understand, I'd really like to see this fully in depth, is that it's different than any place in the world. Right? It gets blessed everywhere it goes down, these villages, and everybody blesses the Ganges River. So very interesting things to take in consideration when I talk, when I live my life. I think to help people is do things deliberately, to get your mind together. Stop giving a fuck what people think about you. Focus on what you need to do. Focus on yourself. Be confident. And I look at these things, these energies and these diversions that we have with our systems going on and everything right now. And we put this towards certain things like our water, which we've completely neglected. And we actually spent time with it, and we understand that you can't get away from water, and water holds memory and all these things. The water sees what you're fucking doing, and I told you guys it's going to get weird. I'm just kind of going off on a spurt here, a little Terrence McKenna, but it sees everything. It's connected. It holds all the energy like a computer, and therefore what we do good, we are seen, we are all connected through water. I think that, the trail is so nuts. I've been trying to, just imagine things, doing brain experiments and things. But when I think about it, water to me, if it does hold memory, it does hold electrical charges, it transfers energies and all these type of things. And our bodies are made up of so much of it, and the earth is, and everything around us. It is the key component that connects us all. People say, we're all connected, we're all one. To me, in the physical world, I think that that's where it brings it. And if we paid more attention to it, studied it, felt it, used our intuition into the water, we actually could experience some things I think that we've never experienced before. I mean, that's probably really fucking weird, but I don't give a shit because it's my podcast. I get to say whatever the fuck I want. But guys, that's the show. I hope that last part inspired you to have some insight, and I guess I'll go ahead and say it, respect for our water and our planet, because our planet needs it, as is us as people. Every living thing on this planet, down to the microbiology in the soil, everything needs water. And we're fucking up our water supply, and our systems fucking suck. And I say, fuck them. Let's all go create our own homesteads and maybe gather our water from the sky, full of nitrogen, fresh water, pump it from the ground, bless it, store it in our properties so that we can serve it to the fucking man, give it to the man, stick it to the fucking man, and we can actually create our own shit and not be affected by such things as fucking recessions, depressions, all the shins, and the supply chain shortages. If we had a pump, if we had a fucking windmill, a ran pump, an airlift pump, things like that, we had plenty of rain and cloud nets, we wouldn't be one bit worried about fucking water. And I'll bet you our health would be a hell of a lot fucking better than drinking our fucking shit water. So that's where I come from when somebody asks me, where do you think you're coming from? What's your big point? That's my fucking point. You want to drink your fucking shit water, bro? Go for it, right? I'm doing it right now. I bless it, and I drink it respectively, and I believe we can change it, just like we said, change perspectives, change your energies. But I'd rather live in a place where everything has more flow, where my water comes in circular patterns, and where I can store this water for the wildlife, give back to the earth, and create beauty, and live in a place where I don't have to physically pray over my water because it's already blessed, right? So that's it. I hope that you are blessed. So guys, you know what to do. The comment sections, everything's at the bottom. Give me a middle finger. If you don't like the show, just tell me why. But as I always say, guys, go out there and have yourself a near life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire. Human up. Live it, love it, own it, and bone it, my friends.